Good morning. We are back at the Undercover Police Inquiry for another week of hearings. Today we've got two witnesses. Linda Holden this morning, who was family liaison officer to the Lawrence family in the aftermath of the murder of Stephen Lawrence. She appeared at the Macpherson inquiry. She was criticised then for contaminating the evidence. But what this inquiry is going to be asking her about, I think largely, though there may be other issues, is the list. Which we heard about from Peter Francis, the list of people who visited the Lawrence family home in the aftermath of the murder. Linda Holden, along with someone called Derek Bevan, were family liaison officers who visited and stayed at hung around at the Lawrence family home for quite a period of time in the aftermath of the murder, and they made a list of all the visitors. Once the people on that list had been identified, it was passed on to the SDS. To find out any of the others. I'm joined by Zoe Young of the Campaign Opposing Police Surveillance. What are you expecting to hear this morning?
Good morning. Yeah, well, I'm expecting to hear probably a lot of lies and dissembling and pretending that what happened didn't happen. And but you know, I mean, I'm a Londoner when Stephen Lawrence was murdered. It was not something new, but it was, as ever, something absolutely shocking and horrendous. And then over the months after that, as it emerged what had happened, and this idea that family liaison officers should go into a house to liaise with the family, that they should be, helping gather information which could help the investigation into a murder. They should be passing on information about the police investigation to the family. But according to Doreen Lawrence, that's not what they were doing at all. They were monitoring who else was in the house. And
I mean, more than just according to Doreen Lawrence, I would say. I mean, that's clearly the role of family liaison officers is just another arm of the police in order to, further the ends of the police. It's never, they're never there really to help out any, like the actual victims, it wouldn't appear.
Well, I mean, you can see a logic, though, that you need support when you've just lost somebody to a racist killing, and there is a major, and you're just an ordinary suburban family, 3 kids, suddenly got 2 kids, and you're coping with that. Plus, it's very clearly a racist murder. You've got Dwayne Brooks, who's managed to escape by running away, and, he knew perfectly well, everyone knew what happened. And that's why so many people massed around. I mean, when anybody dies, people come to the home, people come to the bereaved people to support them. But when it was a situation like that, in an area like that at that time, when the BNP was organising, and it was hard in a lot of those areas of London, that people should come to support the family was not in itself a crazy thing, but so that the family liaison officers were there taking the details of the people coming to support the grieving family.
I mean, just to say, those for those who don't remember, there was a lot of very high-profile visitors to the Lawrence family in that time. A cross-section really of anti-racist organisers and
Nelson Mandela.
Well, quite, yeah, I was going to get to, yeah, most famously Nelson Mandela,
which made the difference, from what I understand.
Sure, yeah, it created huge political pressure. But we've heard from Peter Francis that list of once they'd identified the Nelson Mandelas of this world, the list of the other names that weren't immediately known to the police, he was given this him and various other undercover officers were given this list, and part of their role in the field was to identify the other names on that list. He said that basically that list was stapled to his diary, his official diary, and was like this was one of his priorities, was to find out who these people were. I forget now the details of who was on that list, but I remember thinking at the time, like, so some of these names they failed to identify. I mean, I knew who one of them was. These were people from the Anti-Racist Alliance. There's
well, one of them was Assad Rahman, who's in Friends of the Earth now. International activist on climate, and some people, we just have passion and for justice, and we want to help when things are looking bad. And if someone's got a bit of intellect and a bit of ability, they're like, let's try and stop these racist murders. Let's come together. And that is not a bad thing. That is what you need to have any kind of social change, to protect the vulnerable and innocent people in our society. If you were to target every single person who ever thought, damn, that 17-year-old boy shouldn't have been stabbed standing at a bus stop, then what sort of society are we having? I mean,
yeah. So Linda's on this morning. We've got William Isley this afternoon. We'll talk about him in more detail at lunchtime before he comes to give evidence. There is then a private hearing again this afternoon. I imagine that the questioning will be quite focused today. It is particularly around this one area. Linda Holden was never an undercover officer herself. It'd be interesting to know what knowledge she had of the SDS. Obviously, she did appear at the Macpherson inquiry. So, whether she had any knowledge of undercover police being in support groups of the Lawrence campaign at the time will be interesting. I'm sure she'll be asked that. Also, I mean, we're still kind of reeling from the revelations at the end of last week that the Home Office has published a consultation on the continuation of the inquiry. They're using the opportunity of the retirement of the chair, Sir John Mitting, to reassess the inquiry. I mean, it feels very much from where I'm sitting as an attempt to shut the process down, certainly to protect the NPORU, who are the second unit. We've been looking at the Special Demonstration Squad up until now. The next tranche 4, the next set of hearings, are theoretically going to be about the National Public Order Intelligence Unit. This is the one that Mark Kennedy, Marco Jacobs, Lynn Watson, etc., Rod Richardson were officers in. Because it was that much more recently, because of where they were in the sort of the organizational nature of the police, it's very highly likely that these slightly younger officers are still in roles which are sensitive in some way. It's interesting to note that obviously we're going to have a new Prime Minister later today. It appears that this was the last act of the outgoing Home Secretary, who it was tipped to be the new Chancellor of the Exchequer. There's also a lot of Andy Burnham's political career has been based on sort of advocating for the Hillsborough families, which has led to this new legislation, which has been dubbed the Hillsborough Law, around bringing in a duty of candour and extra powers for
meaning that public servants have to tell the truth in public inquiries, just in case that wasn't obvious that they had to. They had to bring in a law to say they have to, and I think that needs reiterating because a lot of people don't get that. So I mean, there is a possibility of Tranche 4 having some real teeth, which would be a shock to everybody. I'm sure it's certainly a shock to me, and this appears to be an attempt to prevent that from happening. We'll see. Some say it might be connected to Keir Starmer trying to protect what remains of his legacy as well, because he's quite implicated on various levels in this, not least lying to protect the Spy Ops unit in his role as Director of Public Prosecutions.
DPP,
he went on Newsnight and lied. There's a clip of that on the campaign opposing police surveillance.
Keir Starmer lying, as if. I mean, who'd have thought it, right? But so I mean, it'd be interesting with but obviously it depends who Burnham appoints as his Home Secretary. I've heard various rumours. He will be giving a speech later today. I doubt you'll talk about that. He's going to just kill us all with opening up new oil and gas in the North Sea. So that'll be fairly dreadful. I predict the worst possible thing will happen. That's generally my prediction in all political situations. So,
so if it doesn't, then at least the better thing happens.
Yeah, quite.
As well as just being wrong and something shit happened.
Yeah, literally.
Good logic.
There is a consultation. We're asking people. The campaign opposing police surveillance will put out some guidance on how to answer that consultation in the next few days. Please don't do so yet. It's as is the case with all these things. The government tends to put out consultation papers when they've already made their mind up. Certainly, some of the questions are kind of lead you in a certain direction, which I think is probably a bit misleading.
And there's concerns, that perhaps the entire police force could put out notification to all their friends and families and pub drinking mates, please fill this in and tell those bloody dirty hippies that they can't have an inquiry into raping and lying and distorting and destroying their movements for justice and climate protection and animal rights and human rights and so forth.
So all in all, a really positive Monday morning for you all.
Got to love the inquiry.
The hearing is starting early. The hearing will start at 9:30, which means the broadcast should be starting at 9:45. I'm sure it will run slightly late. This week, pretty much every day, from what I can gather, is going to be starting early. Maybe one of the days won't be. I'm not quite entirely sure, but it's going to be a lot of early sittings, a lot of late finishes.
Are they trying to get in as much as they can before they try to shut it down?
Well, this is trying. This whole section, until the chair retires, there'll be no changes. But certainly, we're going to be going through a lot of more tangentially connected. Like, for example, nobody today was an undercover police officer. There's a lot of senior managers for the rest of the week, including Paul Holden, the former chief commissioner of the Met. So, plenty to look forward to if you're into that sort of thing, which if you're watching this, you almost certainly are. And
come down. It's actually fun. And there's a great coffee tap.
Free coffee and
you learn so much. And there's Wi-Fi and you get to meet us and you get to come on Tom's show. And do make donations to support Tom, because none of this is paid for, funded. This is, the media are not here. The media are systematically not reporting anymore. It used to be that you get one or two journalists occasionally, but now nothing, which to me is quite odd. Little bit suspicious. I don't know if it's because it's getting closer and closer to times when the media were propagating a lot of the smears and the false intelligence being put out by undercover police and their bosses, etc. Yes, you get to meet Tom in person, as Jack Shepherd is saying. The real man.
I am real, in every sense. So please do follow along. Thanks to everybody who likes and shares these videos. Makes a huge difference to visibility. If you've got any clever ways of spreading the word any further, if you want to make videos on whatever social media platform or anything else,
or talk to your MP, write to your letter
your
to your
MP. Send your local MP a letter.
You might not fancy them,
those guys,
but
I'm not
I'm no to that personally, but it takes all of us. And that's the beauty of this, is that we work together, even though we don't all agree these sorts of things. But seriously, this is massive, this inquiry. That's why they're trying to shut it down. That's all I can say. So please, thanks for joining, and we'll see you during the morning break. We'll have a bit of reaction to what we hear from Linda Holden. Bye for now. Cheers.